My name is Timothy DeJesus.
Hi everyone, Aldric here.
Hello folks, it's Kevin Kwok here.
Hi, this is Jeremey Sea. I just wanted to say this about bottoms-up perspectives. It's about real lives, real journeys, and real perspectives.
The whole idea behind bottoms-up perspective was from the word kampai, or in Asian culture, oftentimes we drink until the bottom of our cup is empty and we turn it over. So it's very much like just cheers, right? And building relationship. And that's what we're all about, is building authentic, solid relationships on a global level and being able to see things from a global perspective.
And no, we're not Alcoholics Anonymous.
We are here to be the voice of everyone.
I love the idea that we're real people and we get to share our experiences with real people just like you.
So we look forward to having you join us. What's going on, LinkedIn? Episode 33, correct?
Hello world.
Exactly.
World.
So we're everywhere tonight, and today is episode 33, and we go talk a bit about bullying. So I mean, a lot of us growing up probably experienced bully, or been a bully. So let's just talk about that for a bit real quick. So my first question is, okay, from our audience as well, if we love to hear your experience. So I want to say hi to Jacqueline, and looks like Nick just hopped on as well. So I want to say hi to everyone. Yep. Let's start with, have you been a bully yourself, or have you been bullied by other people?
I go first, right?
Go ahead.
It's a tradition, Jeremy. You're back.
You guys have always been bullying me into going first. So yes, I have been cyberbullied.
Oh man, come on.
Okay, I'll be frank here. Yeah, as a kid, yes. But to be honest, I've wiped it out from my memory, because I think it happened sometime in school, in the middle of the assembly hall, early in the morning, where everyone's seated. I can't exactly remember the details. I do remember a lot of good things in the same period of time, but bad stuff, it just gets wiped off my memory. And I think when the way I dealt with it then was really, I pretended to faint and was just ushered away. And I can't remember what happened after that. Whether the bully got better on me after that. I think that stopped after that. I'm not sure. Just too painful to remember. But yes, that's that little bit that I recall of being bullied when I was younger.
I usually go next, so I'll go next. Well, first off, shout out to Lizzie on YouTube. Lizzie is my good TikTok friend and a great supporter. So shout out to Lizzie on YouTube. But anyway, I've been both for brief periods of my life. On the bullying side, I did it once. It wasn't me. I don't know what the heck got into me. But wasn't me. That didn't work out too well anyway. But on the bullying side, yeah, I was bullied as a kid. I actually remember getting chased in the schoolyard at one point, and I didn't realize how fast I was, because I was being chased by an athlete, and I outran. But yeah, I mean, listen. At the end of the day, I learned from it. The one thing I did learn is you got to stand up for yourself, and that was a good learning experience. So what can I say?
And I want to shout out to Travis real quick. So he was on our show last episode. So everyone, say hey to Travis.
Hello.
Hey, Travis. Good to see you, brother.
So before Walter, maybe I'll just talk about it. I've been both a bully and being bullied, but I think it comes across with time. So when you're younger, you get bullied, and then when you learn from experience, you realize that the person that is elder than me is bullying me, so I can turn around and say, hey, there's a cohort behind me, so I can do something. And then slowly it became an evolution of how things are. So not exactly about bullying or not, but it's just a way in which I think for guys, as we mature as we go into the puberty age, we have this territorial inclination. So I just let it be. So it's like if I want to like say like, hey, I own this. So I'll be very, very firm and plant the flag on the ground and say, hey, you're stepping into my ground. And if you don't leave, I'm going to do something to you. So I've been both pretty proud of it because I see both sides. Then, well, there are times where we have to be very careful when we say we are being bullied because it could be just our mindset and not the case that it is. If we always have a victimized mindset, we will always package it in a way that we are being bullied. But actually, the person didn't do anything. The person could just be like, hey, clean your shoes. And then you might think, oh my gosh, my brother just bullied me to clean my own shoes. that's what I think as a very brief introduction.
Cool. Well, I guess
Walter's turn.
Yeah.
Walter.
Yeah,
Walter,
yeah.
before that, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'm Walter. I'm a nerd, a geek. I spend too much time online, which is why I delve into this area of digital literacy. It's one of my hobbies. In the day, I run a digital marketing agency called Cooler Insights. You can find it at coolerinsights.com, or you can just Google my name, and you should be able to find me and what I do. So one of the things that I'm pretty interested in is helping to build a positive internet environment because there's just so much toxicity out there, and especially with people with different views just attacking each other. Thankfully, LinkedIn is still pretty positive, but if you go to Twitter, oh my goodness, that's like it's a war zone in there. Facebook, but I think there's also some negativity there. Of course, Instagram is also an area to watch, and being in the digital literacy space, I'm a volunteer with the Media Literacy Council in Singapore. I have a lot of interest in trying to encourage not just kids, but also adults and even seniors to behave themselves online and hopefully also protect themselves and to be better. I know one of the unique things I find is actually the seniors are the ones that are getting into a bit of trouble. Yeah. So this is something that interests me. Yeah. Oh, I should talk about my bullying story.
Yeah, go for it.
So when I was a kid, I used to have this what we call irritable bowel syndrome. So I literally shit in my pants. Okay, when I was in primary school, I couldn't control my bowels. So because of that, sometimes things happen and you do create a mess, and because of that, other kids will sometimes like call on you and say, hey, this guy is the the Mr. Smelly, or he literally just did his stuff poo in class. So that kind of also affected me. I became an introvert. Actually, I'm an introvert. And in secondary school, I remembered I was, we were taking the buses back home, and there was this guy who claimed that, hey, I was staring at him. Even though I wasn't really staring at him, I was just looking. He just happened to be sitting in front of the bus, and I was at the back, and I was looking at the, at the scenery, and he just thinks that I'm staring at him. I say, no, I'm not staring at you. And then he, as I got down the bus, he threatened me. So you don't stare at me, okay? You stare at me, and I'm gonna, whack you, that kind of thing. And so I was pretty scrawny and small, So that affected me somewhat, and I had a little inner voice in me to say that in future I do not want. Well, not only do I not want to be bullied, but I also want to help people who are being bullied. So that kind of changed my perspective in life.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So how has it? How do you feel it has influenced you in what you do today?
I think, well, one thing is rooting for the underdog, yeah. Helping those who are, who are in a position that they need more help. So that's kind of influenced me when the Media Literacy Council here in Singapore, they are a body that helps to promote better internet behavior, cyber wellness, digital literacy. When they approached me, I was very happy to volunteer my services and to help. It also got me into using my platform to promote positive behaviors. I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, yeah. So I blog and I share content, both sides, because being a digital marketer, I of course have to talk about the positive side of digital marketing, yeah, how to get more customers, how to get more influence on social media, how to do that. On the flip side, I also want to sort of teach the consumer to better use the internet and to understand what goes behind digital marketing. There are, of course, a lot of positive things, but there are also the negative side. When brands misuse their platforms to, I wouldn't say deceive, but there is also a bit of that psychology that they apply to get people hooked or addicted to their products. And so I just want to shine a light on that. So both sides of the story, illuminating it so that more people are aware of these practices.
So we had some good comments throughout. So Chen said, yes, I was bullied, but just a few seconds before I just ignored them, or usually I shut them down with just a few words and they left me alone.
I think that is just an executive summary, because there's a lot of things missing in the middle of a statement. So it's like, I was bullied for a few seconds, I slapped them, and then I ignored them. That's more likely to be the case.
So she became from a victim, and then she became a bully. And then looks like we have Yao on YouTube hopping on. He said bullying is definitely a problem.
It is.
And Travis mentioned, brilliant of you to share with us, Walter Lim. So some good stuff out there, and thank you for all the engagement in our audience as well. And I'll share with you guys, I guess, my experience. I've never been a bully. I've always been the victim, I guess. So being a minority, when I came to the U.S., I was only 6, from Hong Kong, and I didn't know really a lick of English. So I went on the short bus. So in the U.S., for those of you in Singapore don't understand, a lot of times when you ride the short bus, it's not the cool thing to do. So there's a lot of disabled children and kids with mental issues that ride the short bus, but they kind of put the immigrant kids who don't know English, who are taking ESL, into that same bus. So naturally, all the I would say American kids, looks at the short bus as a negative thing, right? Something's wrong with these kids in this bus. So I was part of that group. And let's just say from first grade all the way to probably junior high, I got either locked in the bathroom. They try to shove my head into the toilet. People would kind of people were saying not nice things. Example, like, you guys must ride bikes. And I told them, hey, actually Hong Kong's more offense than being in the Midwest, right? So I was like, it's like, hey, look at the cars. It's all like, your parents buy Toyotas and Hondas. So I was like, we don't ride bikes, but there was a lot of like, we ate cats, we eat dogs, so there was a lot of negative criticism, and so I think throughout I was always pretty small, so probably under 100 pounds until my high school year, probably. So just until I started learning English, and then I found out I was actually pretty athletic. Then things started changing for me, right? But throughout most of my childhood, definitely got bullied, had my share of bullying, being bullied by a lot of kids. I think the suffering has taught me to have resilience. so
So I was just gonna comment. So what we see in the movies is actually real, right? All this shoving your face down the toilet bowl, yanking your underpants all the way up, that kind of thing. It's real. It really happens.
It's real, and I think it's the whole idea of you gotta remember. So that was the Midwest in the '80s. So in the '80s, I stood out like a sore thumb. Like in my school, I was probably the only Asian-looking kid, and everyone else looked the same.
Right.
So,
easy target.
So when you're different, and parents at home, they don't educate their kids to look at things that are different. I think nowadays, when this day and age, people are more educated. They're more, let's say, they're more broad in their thinking. Most people, right? And we're introduced to a little more. Back then there was Bruce Lee, and that's about it. But now, at least, you have Crazy Rich Asian. You have other movies that shine a positive light on being Asian. So and it's all in when it comes to bullying, a lot starts at home, right? Do you teach your kids to look at people the same way? So a lot goes into it, and that leads to kind of we've been talking about bullying or being bullied from a physical standpoint. But what about bullying in the workplace, right? Since we're on LinkedIn, have you ever experienced being bullied by upper management or even your executives? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Not for, well, I can't remember. Not for me. I think so far I've had nice bosses. So no, I don't feel like no, I don't think so. I think I've been really lucky. Yeah, I've been really lucky. Yeah, I do.
Jeremy, or
I do.
Some...
Yeah, nice bosses. Okay, guys.
Yeah, I think really I've been pretty fortunate. Yeah, I don't think I have had nasty bosses. Yeah, no, I have to say no bad experience in terms of being bullied by bosses and stuff like that. And no, not for me.
All right.
I can definitely say I've had the experience of, I wouldn't say bullied, but being talked down to by bosses and executives. And, I think by now, anybody who's watched the show or followed my content knows I'm a pretty direct person. And, sometimes when you're direct with somebody who's your superior, they don't take too kindly to that. Part of the reason why I went on my own, because, to be honest, that's not a fun feeling. When you have ideas and, you want to share and you want to help a business grow, and you're basically told to stay in your lane and kind of shut up. It's not a fun experience. And, I think what I learned from that is, it happened once and I was like, all right, maybe this is just the employer. It happened a few more times. I was like, maybe I just need to stop working for people because this is not working. And I learned from it. I adapted. I moved on. But yeah, I've definitely had, I don't want to take up too much airtime, but I have candid stories I could tell people that, like I said, wasn't fun experiences and led me to go on my own because I was getting tired of it. So yeah, I could definitely say that.
Very interesting.
I guess I'll go. And I think even me, I've experienced my share of when I worked my corporate jobs, and it goes back to, and it's nothing with minority or diversity. Definitely, some people are not as open-minded. Having someone of different race or different color rising up in the corporate ladder, and you do have that silver lining in the U.S. I can't speak for Singapore, right? But there's definitely challenges that I saw where, hey, I'm limited in my opportunities, you know, and, you know, and I'm just being real, right? There's been times people, even as adults, right, in their 40s and 50s, that doesn't understand, that never grew up from their high school setting, right? And doesn't understand how to respect other people. And I definitely had my share of upper management and people I've experienced that are negative, that are, you know, they might have not bullied me, but they would have bullied other people in our organization. And people being undermined, just like Timothy said, you know, no one's ideas are bad ideas, right? And they should never put in a place where they feel inadequate or below you. They shouldn't be talked down to. And I think that's just bad management.
Yeah, okay, in the workplace, I haven't really been bullied, although I have tough bosses. But sometimes I find that there's a difference between a bullying boss and a tough boss. Tough boss is somebody who may have high standards and they may demand certain things of you, but they don't like sort of like, you know, sort of put you down, tell you off, so that you feel like, you know, such a small little creature. But I do have certain clients that I've dealt with in the past who were bullying clients, you know, as an agency. Sometimes I don't know if Kevin or Aldric, you know, whether you guys have experienced before, but there are certain clients who have, you know, very high expectations, and they ask you for this, for that, for this. They got lots of questions, and yet, you know, they're because you have the scope, right? The fees that they're supposed to pay maybe may not cover all of these things. So there are sometimes situations like this where you feel that if a client is being unreasonable, and if they have a lot of expectations, then perhaps it's better to just, you know, drop the relationship. And because you know, I mean, I've reached a stage of life where I feel that we don't really have to serve everybody that come our way. I mean, we can pick and choose who we want to work with, and I think that gives me an advantage, lah. It gives our business an advantage. Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Walter, because I've definitely experienced this. I think it's popular in the digital marketing world. And when it comes to relationships with your clients, you got to remember it goes both ways. You know, when we're an entrepreneur, we get to choose who we want to work with too, you know, and if someone doesn't value your time, you're not going to ever change that. If they didn't value you in the first place, why do you expect them to value you later? And I always tell people, in my younger career years, you know, I would just eat it up because I needed the money or whatever, and I would just deal with it, right? But it's a lot like being in an abusive relationship. Okay? From a guy or girl's perspective, if you're ever been in an abusive relationship, right? It doesn't just go away. Okay? And you keep going back for more and more and more. And it doesn't get you anywhere. And you're actually suffering behind the scene. And the best thing you can do is cut that off. And it's the same with clients. You might feel like, man, I need them to pay my next bill. But a better client will always come your way. Someone that values you. There's a lot of fish out there, and someone's going to value what you do. And that's my advice on, I guess, on this topic here. So that's my take.
I just want to say, I think those kind of clients are not bullying clients. They are more cheapskate, that's all.
It could be both. I understand what you're saying. Sometimes they're just genuinely mean clients, and like, you know, it just shouldn't be that way. And, you know, like, you're doing them a service, and, you know, they think they kind of own you because they're paying you. But the reality is they don't own you. And, you know, it's the same thing in the workplace, right? A lot of employers will act as though they own you because they pay you a salary or a check. Well, no, you don't own me. I can leave, and that's what happens. But that's the thing. And I wanted to circle back to what Walter said. I completely agree that there's a difference between a tough boss who holds you accountable and a shitty boss. Because, you know, there's a reality. Like one of my favorite bosses ever was he was very high on accountability. He would hit you right between the eyes, but in a respectful way. But he would tell you exactly what was on his mind. But I respected it, I appreciated it, and I worked really hard for that guy because he would, he at the same time that he would hold you accountable, he would also have your back when it came down to it. So there's absolutely a difference between a tough boss and a shitty boss.
And I think for me, there's so many brilliant points that's being mentioned, and it just brings back so many memories, pockets of memories in my memory lane. But I'll start off with what Timothy just mentioned. When I look at bosses who are tough, I look at the way they do things, and I ignore what they tell me. So if they expect a deliverable by ungodly hours, by normal circumstances or benchmark, I would see if he is still working during those hours. If he does, I will fight with him. Meaning, if he wants to have a draft proposal out before midnight, and I can see that he's still working or being online at midnight, moving ahead, I'll be with him. The respect is already there. I don't need him to convince me through his mouth or words because he's doing it. So I want to do it with him. Of course, it's very pressurizing in that sense because whenever you have very high expectations from outside, it breaks you because you're forced out of your comfort zone. But what's really important is that two things. One, the person that is willing to have high expectations of you, they see something in you which you can't. So sometimes let's just take a step back and say that's not being unreasonable or I'm being bullied by someone with authority. It's just, hey, I have my blind spots. Someone else saw it. So it is totally up to me if I want to do it or I don't want to do it. Good mentors are hard to come by. I believe in that. A good mentor that's willing to push you to the brink of collapse is very hard to come by. And why would they want to invest that effort? Is it because they're happy to see you down, battered, with your pride shattered? I don't think so. It's because they think that you're worthy of their time. So that's my thoughts. And then I think when it comes to workplace relationships, with bullies, there are many categories. The first one, which is very obvious, and I would say pretty much in Asia Pacific, because I've worked in Hong Kong, Thailand, India, China, Japan, and Singapore. People can be overly exertive when they don't know what they want to do. I'm always amazed. It's like the business functional departments will always tell IT what to do. But you're not coding. Like, you're not running the project, right? Now, so I can make it more relevant. It's like the other department that always suffers the same fate as IT is marketing. No one tells the sales department how they should sell. No one tells the warehouse how they should stack their inventory, right? But everyone will go to the marketing department and say, hey, the recent YouTube advertisement sucks. Can you do something about this? It should be this, it should be this, you should say this, you should say this. So it's very interesting. It's a paradox.
It's because marketing is very subjective, that's why.
Well, okay, but
and everyone's a critic. Yeah, everyone's a critic.
Also, don't kid yourself. People tell the sales department how to sell. Let's not kid ourselves. You're in sales, Aldric. You know how that goes.
Well, when I'm selling, everyone is trying to tell me how to sell, right? When they're not selling, I was like, hey, but you're not the one doing it. I'm the one doing it. So shut up. I can imagine you saying that, Timothy. But anyway, as with bullies in the workplace, I think workplace. So let's say it's not a client relationship, just pure workplace. I think the important thing when we meet with people that we don't know, and therefore we see this as a form of workplace bullying, is just do what they want us to do and fail very quickly in front of them and shatter their pride. To say that this is not working, it's nonsense, and so I'm going to propose this. You sure you want to say something else? We can continue, but you're just wasting our time and you're wasting our budget. That's it, period, end of story. So I think that works. We have to stand up for ourselves. If we don't, we are actually bullying in reverse. We are bullying ourselves. That's what I think. Hey!
We have a guest.
We have a guest, Jen. The audience was saying, "Hey, you guys should add Jen." So, hey, I decided, hey, let her hop back on the show. So
I'm just one of the dudes tonight. So, yeah, surprise guest. Go ahead.
Travis, we let Jen in. Great idea. But I wanted to read Darlene's comment here. She said, I have experienced bullying and seen others bully in the workplace. One manager that comes to mind seemed to be on a power trip and wasn't open to feedback from subordinates. Needless to say, the turnover rate was extremely high. And that's definitely true, I think, to a lot of organizations. So
I definitely relate to that, Darlene. So that's excellent commentary right there.
And then Jacqueline said, bully is also loser behavior because they either are jealous of you and your capacity to be better, or they have low confidence level.
Yeah, or both. Or both.
It reflects both. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the times both.
That's good. Good stuff. Great comments from the audience. And so I will jump to our next question. And now we have Jen here as well.
The rapper is in the house.
Hi, baby.
Where is Ashish tonight? Let me tag him.
I can definitely say before we go to this next question, I just wanted to throw this out there. I had a manager one time that seemed to be really nice and very professional. But then she would talk about different employees behind their back to the other employees. And she would sometimes make really mean, degrading comments and make you feel stupid. And then all of a sudden, she would come and hug me and cry on my shoulder when she broke up with her boyfriend. And so it was just very confusing and very, it was just awful to be treated that way and to never know what you're going to get when you go to work, like what her mood would be. And so Kevin helped me write a letter, and we actually sent a letter to corporate office, and they came in and investigated, and she was fired.
You gave it away. Now that lady's gonna find it.
That's okay. I'm okay with that because it wasn't just me writing a letter. They came in and interviewed all the employees, and it was her own personal actions that got her fired, not me. I just brought it to their attention and said that this is inappropriate because I loved my workplace and I loved everybody I worked with. I loved our clients, but it was just the manager that made it very difficult. So,
yeah, I think having been a manager before, I feel that the role of the boss or the manager has to be to protect the interests of your team members, right? Of your subordinates. And sometimes even to the extent of, standing up against an unreasonable client. Given a choice, I'll much rather keep, a dedicated team member and lose some clients if it's, if it worst come to worst. If that's the case, then and that's exactly what have happened with us as well. Compared to doing everything to please either your clients or your boss. I mean, every boss always has a bigger boss, and sort of talking back about your employees and all that. Yeah, so I think that is something that a boss should do. Yeah.
I think that's somewhat the worst thing to do when you're in management. Even myself, now that I have a team, you got to be careful what you say behind, your team members' back, because at the same time, you also put a lot of pressure on the person when you're gossiping, right? it's not right. There's no right about it, and you should just keep it to yourself. So, yeah.
And Walter, I mean, we could have a whole separate discussion about this, but you make a great point, because the reality is a lot of companies value their clients more than they do their employees, but their employees are the ones that typically keep the house together and can help the company grow long term. And it's something that so many companies undervalue their employees and, focus the entire experience around the customer, and, the workplace culture is not good. So that's a great point you made.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to go to our next question. So how can someone be a victim of cyberbullying?
Okay. Maybe I could just
you can go ahead. This is your
thing.
Tell us.
It's your business, right? Well,
it's not really my business.
So I think it's important that Walter tells us, like the symptoms, because sometimes we might already be bullied online, but we may not know, right? So I think it's good that we will have Walter go first on this one.
Sure. Thank you so much, guys. Cyberbullying is really where somebody uses electronic communication with the intent to intimidate or hurt a person or a group. And the funny thing about cyberbullying, it can be intentional or unintentional. So that's the danger. Examples of cyberbullying: sending hurtful messages, spreading rumors online, outing somebody, by sharing a piece of information that he or she does not want to be shared, circulating humiliating or degrading photos or videos of someone, or of course, attacking their character online. Now, when we look at cyberbullying, it's actually fairly pervasive. I was just looking at some of the statistics that about 73% of students, this was in 2020, feel that they have been bullied in their lifetime. 44% said that it really took place in the last 30 days. And in terms of on social media, I found out that Instagram actually is the place where a lot of cyberbullying happens. 42% happens on Instagram, 37% on Facebook, Snapchat 31%, WhatsApp 12%, YouTube it was 10%. So it actually happens across the different social networks. And I think Jeremy has a good point about cyberbullying and how to detect if you or a family member or friend or colleague is being cyberbullied. There are a few symptoms. I mean, one is you notice a person behaving unnaturally, being shy and withdrawn. And I have a teenager at home. So sometimes when you see teens behaving in a certain way, you kind of can tell that maybe they have been a victim of cyberbullying, or they just don't want to talk about it. They can be more moody, agitated, anxious, or stressed. They may act more aggressively towards others. It becomes an outlet to vent. And they may not want to go to work or go to school. Sometimes the performance will deteriorate, whether it's at work, in school, or in other social contexts. And there are two ways when it comes to using technology. Either they may completely switch off from technology, they stop looking at their handphones or their computers, or they may spend all their time on the computer or handphone, but not interacting with others. They could be just binge watching YouTube videos, for example. In the extreme cases, and we've seen some of that happening both in the US and in Singapore and other parts of Asia, you could even have suicide or having harmful thoughts. So that's one of the dangers when cyberbullying just goes out of whack. Yeah. And yeah, so I think that one thing about cyberbullying is that it can be so pervasive that sometimes we may not even know that we ourselves are cyberbullies. Because I think it's this thing about morality. Everybody feels that they have the right moral position. And so when they try to assert their point of view, sometimes it may be a bit too aggressive, and the other party may then not take kindly to it, or may feel that, hey, I'm being targeted. And sometimes, it just ends up becoming an online, shouting match, so to speak. I've seen that happen on Twitter all the time, and and people no longer can have a very decent conversation with each other. Yeah.
So Walter, actually, my question is this, right? In the past, when we were being bullied, you need that physical interaction. Right? If you need to meet that bully physically, for example, in school, before the bullying can happen. But right now, if it's on cyberbullying, actually, it seems like it's easier to avoid, or is it not? Because it's just like a paradox, right? Because you are away, you don't have to look at the screen, right? You don't have to participate in it, but it still impacts you in an even larger scale. Because if, say, for example, any demeaning picture of me is being sent around the world, my gosh, the impact is so much huge. More
Jeremy,
huge than...
that's already happening. You're part of the BUP group. I'm a victim of Jennifer's all the time. I'll see my picture on one of her posts.
Right. I pick him up on social media, I lift him up, and then I drop him all the way down in front of everybody.
Why don't you post this picture of me eating?
Yeah. So you see the impact. The impact. Okay. Not about me anymore.
One thing we need to know is that the internet is like an elephant, isn't it? It never forgets. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the problems, especially with stories, on Snapchat or Instagram. So some of the kids may think, oh, it's just going to disappear in 24 hours. But you can always do a screen grab and the screen capture, and then it stays forever, So,
Best example, Captain America, Chris Evans post. But I've still not been able to locate that picture, though. Somebody sent it to me.
So I think that's one of the things. I think the other thing about the internet and your devices is that they can be so addictive, isn't it? I mean, it's very compelling, and they're designed that way to sort of keep your attention, to just keep you wanting to continue on that conversation and not want to let go. So everybody needs to have the last word in, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So sometimes it never really stops. Yeah. And that's one of the problems of cyberbullying. And it's not just the kids or teens, right? I mean, I see more adults also participating in it. Yeah.
So I guess it's called trolling, right? And then
trolling.
What about I know Jen brings this topic up some too. What about, I think a lot of ladies, even colleagues that's worked for us in the past were male guys would kind of abuse these the LinkedIn platform. They see it almost like a dating network. Especially there's certain executives that feel it's okay. That's another, I guess, abusive way of utilizing these platforms. So
when you're on with a business mindset and you're just thinking of yourself as another human, not necessarily as a man, not necessarily as a woman. It's just, I'm a human here doing business and interacting with all these people. And then you get a message, hi. Okay, hi. How are you? I'm good. How are you? Well, I'm doing good. What can I do for you? Oh, well, how are you and your family doing during the pandemic? Well, we're doing good. How can I help you? I just wondered if we could be friends. Maybe we could talk some more. No, that is a hard no. I'm gonna pass. It's just,
poor soul.
And it happens over and over and over. And it's not that it's wrong to have a friend or to make connections. It's just that where are you doing at and how are you doing it? And so
Jen, you should change your profile pic to what you're wearing now. And
Yeah.
and
And go like this.
Don't want to mess with you.
You gotta bring your cap lower. You gotta bring your cap lower.
That's right. And I'll just we'll say it's John Quack or something. See what happens.
Little John. Little John.
Little
Clark.
John. Little John. That's right. Or a big panda.
I do agree with Walter. I think, people don't understand how, social media, there's a freedom of speech, but there are definitely people that try to shove their opinions and their way of living and their thoughts. And, and there's a lot of manipulation on these platforms as well, and there's a fine line with, doing it positively, and then there's ways to do it negatively, right? And brands have power too. People don't understand, even from a corporate standpoint. Their messaging does influence, young people. It even influences older folks as well. And the power of these, what's that Netflix series? The show that Social
Dilemma.
Yeah.
Dilemma, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that? Who's watched it? In the audience, who's watched it? I watched it. And just watching it is kind of, hey, it's definitely real. It's crazy, right? How these couple of tech companies can kind of manipulate the way you do things, the way you get addicted to these dopamine feeds, right? Because I never experienced this. Like my kids, they don't want to do school. They want to watch YouTube all day.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then you go back to when we were kids, we wanted to watch television. But then it's a little different because it's not only YouTube, because after YouTube, they sit on the TV and it's very obvious they're targeted. Because now I'm seeing certain toys or certain Minecraft things they play. And then they're targeted when they're playing gaming too. Because the same ad starts feeding in.
Yeah.
So when people go, oh, it's no different than when you used to watch TV or radio. And I go, no, this stuff's a lot more powerful. Because it follows them into their everyday life. Everywhere they
retargeting.
Yep.
Yes. I think there's this phenomenon of what we call the filter bubble, where your world online increasingly becomes defined by who you interact with, the brands that you engage with, and the algorithm learns, right? With the AI becoming more and more intelligent these days, you end up seeing more of those stuff that you like. The brands will retarget you, or the friends that interact most with you will also, you'll see them on their feed. And that's one of the unusual things about this phenomenon is that if you get into a heated quarrel with somebody on Facebook or Instagram, for example, and you have a lot of comments on that person's post, guess what? The guy's post is going to appear more and more on your newsfeed. So it becomes, you end up reacting more and more, and it just like boils up.
I would like to share a thought. It's kind of a little bit different perspective that's coming to me about cyberbullying, and I want to see what you guys think about it, and as well as the audience. So one of my stories is when I was in junior high, I had one really, really good friend. She was my best friend, and I was in the lunchroom, and I was leaning down across the lunch table, talking to her. She was sitting across from me, and I was excited about something, and I'm just sitting there leaning on the table with my elbows and going on, and I was a very tiny girl. I got made fun of a lot because I was very little, and so I had room in my chair behind me, and I wasn't paying attention because I'm sitting on the edge of my seat and just going on and on about something. And one of the popular guys, a taller guy, and he was a jokester. He was known as a jokester. That's kind of what made him popular. He comes and I've never even talked to him. I've never even been around him. And he comes and sits on the chair behind me, and he's making fun of me. So he's sitting in my chair with me. And she has this really weird look on her face. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, behind you. So I look behind and I see him and I instantly get mad. I move over to the chair next to me. I reach down and with some superhuman strength, which is probably my anger, I reach down and I pick up the chair from underneath and dump him on the floor in front of the whole classroom without I'm not even thinking. I'm just thinking, you think you're so cool and you're in my space. Okay. And I don't let people make fun of me. And so I didn't even think about it. It was just like an instant reaction. I didn't think about, am I strong enough to do this? I just dumped him on the floor. Everybody clapped. He never came near me again. Never. And the funny thing is okay, so in that moment, it was a kind of I don't know what he was doing it for or why. I don't really understand. But it was kind of one of those things that he thought he was going to get the upper hand and pick on me. And I turned it around on him. And I feel on social media, see, back then we didn't have social media because I'm an old lady. We did not have it. It wasn't even there yet. We didn't even have internet yet, or computer was black and white. So, so nowadays people get on like in front of, like on Facebook, for example, and somebody can write their heart out, tell their opinion or whatever. And then all of a sudden, all these people are starting to give their opinions and land blasting them or bullying them or telling them, being really mean. The cool thing about that is when you put it on social media, all of your friends and family or people that are kind-hearted will get on and protect you. Everybody can see who the bully is. So it depends on whether they're going behind. If they're doing it private message, then that's only affecting that person. But if they're doing it outside on the social media commenting, people know who the bully is. And a lot of times they'll step in and try to protect that person. I've seen a lot of that lately, even with some of the movie stars and, for example, like Ellen DeGeneres, and they're all saying this stuff about her. And then people are stepping out and saying, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't my experience. I have a relationship with her and she's not like that behind the scenes. So that's the one good thing. If they don't do it in private and they do it publicly, guess what? It's public that you are a bully. And everybody can see that. So
I love this story of Jennifer's, and actually a lot of things crossed my mind. So I just want to say something. In that physical incident, it was very clear who's the protagonist and who's the antagonist, right? Very clear. So whether that's an act of offense or that's an act of defense, that's also very clear. But so before I carry on to the next point, I would just like to have a thought experiment with all of you. Imagine that the entire safari has only two animals. You have a lion, you have a deer. The deer is injured. You walk past. What's your first impression? Don't say, because I know what's your first impression. Who's the bullying one and who's the one that got victimized, right? So if you understand this, the person that's being bullied can retaliate just by recounting the same story that they are being bullied. It's reverse bullying. Because now when it happened, I'm defending. But if I retell that story with a specific target, I put it down into a platform where there's infinite leverage and distribution. Guess what? The person that was bullying you previously 5 minutes ago is now going to be throttled online around the world 24/7. So I think that in itself is also a form of bullying. Not to say that you have the intent to, but it feels good that the people that are supporting you, they come online to support you and say, he should have done that and whatever. But I think when we look at the context of bullying, usually when we put 2 points together and they conflict, there's no end to that. We can't get any better. No way. It's like, if we think about any issues in terms of yes and no, right or wrong, true or false, asshole or heroes, we'll never learn. We'll never learn. So that's my take on Jennifer's story, because I just, the image of the injured deer and the lion is just in my head, and all it takes is for the injured deer to say a little something, the lion is dead, and the lion might not even be the one who beat the deer. You never know. So that's how I feel about it. So I think when it comes to bullying online, how we feel and what we do, we have to be a little, you can always hold back slightly. I think that's fine. And then I think that is the exact reason why we are not seeing the kind of content diversity in social media, because everyone knows that if they are a straight shooter and they start posting contents like that, everyone is going to bury them. And therefore, it pushes a lot of people just to post extremely ludicrous and exaggerated contents that are positive. That's like 95% of the time. But in real life, you can't always have good days, right? Like a month, 30 days. You're going to have bad days for 25 days. No one talks about it anymore. Because they are thinking about engagements. They're thinking about the number of likes. They're thinking about the number of people that's going to throttle them, right? And then they retract. So are we as a whole becoming more intelligent by learning from other people's real experiences? I don't think so. And I think that's a bad thing. I seriously think that's a bad thing. And stop bringing me to believe in extreme optimism. I don't think the world functions that way. I really don't think so. Not just my view.
I think if I'm going to be bullied, though, I want to be bullied on social media, Aldric, because honestly, I don't know how it'll go if you say it to my face. Okay, it probably will not turn out good, because I'm gonna let you know.
Yeah, we see what you're wearing, Jen. Like
that's right. I've got on my defense mechanism here.
All you need is some Vaseline for your face, and you're ready to throw down.
Hey, I need some black right here under my eyes, and or some sunglasses probably. But no, I'm actually really nice. But I learned from an early age that you have to stand up for yourself, or people are going to run over you. They will. They don't care about you. You know, a lot of people, especially people that are bullying you on purpose or picking you out to bully. And I'm very much of a justice person. I'm part of the Justice League. Okay, you guys don't know that, but it's like this underground thing. But no. So, but if I did a Facebook post recently because I was upset about something, and for me, social media is, you want to post a lot of positives, and you don't want to bring people down with the negatives, but you're still allowed to give your opinion or your thoughts about something. You are allowed to do that. It doesn't mean that people are going to like it, but it's your personal channel to say or to document whatever you want. So I started it off by saying, these are my personal thoughts and opinions. Okay. So I let my heart out, which I don't normally do. And I said, this is how I felt, and this is how I reacted to a situation. And honestly, I don't care anybody's opinion. I don't even care if they like me. I'm going to say what I feel. Okay. I need to say this. And so I let it all out. And then of course, even some of my own family members have to say something. I already know their views, so I knew they wasn't going to agree with me, but that's fine. So, but I love it because literally I know I have a support system that no matter what, they know me and they're on my side. So I can stop getting notifications. I never have to look back at that post, and I know that there's people who are going to stand up for me. I'm not there to defend myself. I just said what I needed to say because that's the truth. That's what I felt. And then I just left it alone and let everybody else do the arguing.
That's wonderful, Jen. You just dropped a bomb and then walked away.
I did. Just like in the movies, you know, it blows up behind them and they're just like walking away with their sunglasses on. They're like, I'm done with that gig. That's how I felt. That's how I felt.
Swag, yeah.
Yeah, swag.
Here, I'm not gonna take up too much more time on the topic because I know we gotta move on to other things. What I will say is, you know, I'm looking at this from both Aldric's and Jen's perspective, right in the middle, right? See, I think for me personally, like I pay very close attention to my personal brand on social media. So, like from Aldric's perspective, I'm not gonna be super positive all the time because that's not who I am, you know, and it wouldn't be authentic of me to be that person. At the same time, I probably won't do what Jen did, which is to like, hey, let me like put a grenade out there and see what happens. You know what I mean? So I think on social media, it's really about how, like, what your image is and how you manage your image. Because, you know, I'm no stranger to making a direct comment, but I don't necessarily make direct comments that are going to be so inflammatory that, like, I'm going to lose people. Every now and again I might, but it's not, I try not to go that far left where, you know, it's actually counterproductive to your personal brand. So I think how you behave on social media, you have to look at it from all perspectives and kind of realize who you are and, you know, what's going to be productive for you and your personal brand, especially if you're looking to, you know, like build something long term on social media. So that's just my take on it. I look at it from in between you guys.
And that's a good take, Timothy. As a digital marketer, right? I think you have to look at it, you know, it depends on your platform. Where are you playing in? Like example, on the Kevin Kwok Facebook page, that's my friends, family, people I let in that are close to me. So it's really pictures of my kids. I haven't really built my personal business brand on Facebook, and that's not really what it's for because I have my company page, right? So, and then on TikTok, right? I have fun on there. You know, every once in a while I'll scroll through. So it really depends, I think, where you're building your personal brand. I think you do have to watch and draw that line if you're trying to either create viewership from a business perspective, right? But I definitely think if it's a personal account and it's more your personal, you don't have people that you're not trying to grow it or anything, then hey, there is that freedom of speech on social media, right? Exactly. So I just think it depends where you are, right? Because the way I post on, I don't like to post my kids, you know, because I feel like, hey, I don't want to be that guy that uses my kids as engagement, you know, to draw likes or something. So I don't post them on LinkedIn. I try to not show them. Hey, but if you come to my Facebook page, if I add you, you're probably someone that I like and you're a friend, I got to know you, then you're going to see a lot more pictures of me and my kids, you know, our day to day, right? Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would like to say that's why I did share that particular thing on Facebook. Most of my stuff is very encouraging because I'm a natural born encourager. But after about 8 months of being ridiculed and of seeing some things that I just couldn't take anymore, I did release that, which I wouldn't put on LinkedIn. Right. And then if you go to my IG, people try to add me all the time and I won't because I put very personal pictures of my kids and it's just all sweet and no, you know, nothing, no bombs, I promise. But it's a very small, but it's only like 120 something people because I'm not trying to grow it because it's a very private, you know. Facebook is a little bit more open, but again, that's got my kids, so I'm just careful. And most of the people on Facebook, they know my character. So they know if I say something like that, it's really meant from the heart. But if they want to fight me on it, then you deal with my friends and family. So, you know.
So I guess this leads to my last question for the night, right? What are ways to respond you know, and I love to hear from Walter as well, to negative or abusive comments on social media?
I think that there are a few ways to do so. It really depends on who is the person rather than what is being said sometimes to me. If there is a negative comment from a customer or somebody who we have dealt with before, you know, then you really have to respond to a customer, isn't it? And make sure that you resolve the issue or the challenge that the customer faces. If it's a stranger or if it's a troll, then I'll look at the context of the comment, see if it's fair or not, and whether it warrants a response or not. Now, one thing that I've learned, I've been doing PR, actually public relations, for many years before I started out as a digital entrepreneur, is that not every comment dignifies a response. Sometimes just being quiet about it will just help the issue to die off. But if, let's say, it's something that is gaining steam, other people are adding on to it, then it warrants a comment. It warrants you to respond and to tell them your point of view. Of course, always in a polite, tactful manner. No ad hominem attacks. Don't go for their family, their beliefs, their political party. And I know in the US, the political party thing is like, wow.
It's cringing.
It's cringing. It's like, oh yeah. You
go after the families.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Twitter it's a bloodbath every day. So it's just tackling the issue, being professional about it. I think that matters. The other thing is to take it offline. So I've experienced, maybe not so much cyberbullying, but when there are people who write a negative comment or remark, and I try and take it offline, I try and private message them, and even meet them face to face, have a coffee together. And I can tell you sometimes it can be amazing. When you meet somebody face to face, of course, social distancing, masks and all. 2 meters apart or 1 meter apart, you realize that you can understand the other person's point of view, which brings to mind Stephen Covey: seek first to understand and then to be understood. And that really helps to sort of diffuse the heat. Because the problem with the online world is that it's impersonal, it's cold, it's a screen, it's 2D, it's flat. There isn't the nuances. You don't get the tone of voice. You can't tell the person's background or context. But when you meet the person face to face, even a Zoom or a StreamYard meeting like this would be great. You can actually grasp a bit more of the subtleties, and that could be a way to kind of diffuse the tension. And I can tell you, some of the people who have been writing negative comments or letters about my organization in the past, when I used to do corporate comms or PR, eventually turned out to be our strongest advocate after you meet them face to face and you try and understand each other's point of view. So sometimes that helps to diffuse things a bit. Yeah. Of course, if the guy is really evil, okay, or
out for blood.
Out for blood. Then there are all the tools available online. You can click on the 3 little dots. I always have there are 3 little dots on the right side. Click on it. You can report the person. You can block them. There are all these tools available that can help you that can make sure that the person is not in your life ever again. Okay, so that is possible. Yeah.
Great advice. For me, I think we first need to differentiate if this person is out for blood or just sharing a different perspective from yours that you interpret to be negative, right? I think as part of this show as well, and the general internet, social media, I think it's really an avenue, a channel for people to share their perspectives, and not necessarily the same perspective as you. So you might perceive that as negative, but it may not be, right? So we need to differentiate that. And if there's this certain troll that just hits you on everything you say, that person's out for your blood, then like what Walter said, just get rid of the person from your life, from your feeds, and be done with it. There's no need to get angry and all that. So I just think that we need to make use of this social media in a very respectful manner. Look at different people's views and respect their views, even though they may be different from yours. And I think if we do that, generally the internet will be a much better place to be in, and everyone can learn and benefit from it.
Yeah. For me personally, it's very much on a case by case basis, right? Typically, if somebody has a negative comment on one of my posts, I like to. I hate using the word "kill them with kindness" because it's like killing. Right?
Smolder them with kindness.
But I tend to be kind back usually. Now, if somebody's really ignorant, that's gonna get flipped on them real fast because I have no problem making something really stupid if they're being ignorant. So I don't mind standing up for myself. If somebody's like I said, if they're being negative, but it's not so hateful or so stupid that I'm like, all right, I need to say something to you, then I'll be like, oh, that's okay. I respect your opinion. That's fine. And kind of move on with my life. But if you say something really ignorant, you're going to get flipped on your head, and that's not going to work. So, it's very much on a case-by-case basis. But I agree with Jen. I think in certain cases, you have to stand up for yourself on social media. And your viewers will actually appreciate it, too. Just as a heads up, I've seen it happen before where people are like, I'm glad you said something. Like people will DM me and be like, I'm so glad you said something to that person. And I'm like, yeah, well, I wasn't going to let that fly, So
Tim's dumping a lot of people on the lunch floor.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that's my take.
That's good. Aldric?
I think this conversation is slightly one-sided already. I just want to probably just shine a beam of light on the other part that we don't really see. And the question that I want to ask is, don't you think there are actually some advantages of being bullied as an episode if we reflect on it? Because if we can extract ourselves from those episodes, it's uncomfortable for sure, right? Unless we win them. But when we think back of every incident, we reflect on how we want to be, how we want to respond if the same thing happens again. It actually makes us a little wiser incident on incident. I think the most important takeaway is whenever something uncomfortable happens, don't jump the gun. Don't go straight from step 0 to step 100 and say, I've been bullied. I think there's a lot of intricacies in the way we can think about something. And the truth is, why would anyone be interested in bullying you? That has to be asked. Like I'm too free, or you're too rich, or you're too fat, or the questions behind the act is irrelevant. There's nothing there. So that's how I think about it. And I think going through and overcoming traumas makes us better people. And I believe people who have gone through that in their teenage years, I know it's very rare these days, which is very different from the time where I grew up. It's a lot more free market, and we can do whatever I want. I remember that I learned the importance of signaling when a physical confrontation is about to happen, and all I did was that I put one of my hands behind me. The guy walked away, but I had nothing in my hand. It looked to him that I'm actually hiding a bag or a weapon. So would you have actually thought about something like that if you don't have that incident? I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying that every incident grows us. That's how I think about social media too. When people throttle you on social media, they are helping to push your post further. And that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'll give you a like. No problem. Am I gonna call you, meet you, and say, hey, you know, like, stop doing this, you're an asshole? I'm not gonna do that. The point is this: as we grow our personal brand and followers more and more and more, we have a responsibility to the people who like our content and who follow us. And you know, we don't even have enough time to reply to all our followers who believe in us. Why are we investing our time to retaliate against a random, seemingly kind of a bullying character when all they did was to help push your post further? That's not something. It doesn't make sense at all.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, go ahead, Jeremy. Sorry.
No, that's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah. I was just gonna say real quick too. I mean, you got to think about it like this too. This is how I always think about it. You're not doing it big enough if you don't have a few haters. So that's how I think about it. If you got haters, that's a blessing. If people are going out of their way to say negative things, you're doing something right. That's okay. So that's how
I've been doing it wrong all this time. I still don't have any haters.
From what I have to say though, I definitely agree with you, Aldric. I think sometimes negative publicity is also publicity. Exactly. But there is a difference between a child being cyberbullied, and I know that mostly we're talking about adults, but there is a difference in the maturity level. So, for example, and there's even a difference sometimes in East meets West perspective, because the way that Asians grow up is you have to deal with a lot of stuff growing up. And I know Americans do too, but it's just a very different culture. And so for you, somebody says something mean and you probably just laugh because it doesn't really affect you. So it really depends on the person, and it depends on the maturity level. It depends on your upbringing. If you can take it as a grain of salt, like what Aldric's saying, then it's just more publicity for you. It's water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
And you just have more comments pushing your post. But for some people, it really, everything that they read affects them very, very deeply. They're sensitive to it. So I can see both perspectives on that. Yeah.
Just a quick note, Jen, you point out.
On one closing comment on this topic, because I know that time is overrunning. I just want to say this, a little story that I shared. Just to synthesize it, I was walking past and someone was saying something negative about me. I didn't turn and look at the guy at all. I think it's a female. So I just so it's like the negative comments just and it went off. Okay?
Yeah.
And then she cried. I didn't do anything. And that's the exact reason why she cried. She said I bullied her because I didn't do anything and I was ignoring her.
Wow.
What can you do?
Right. Silence is golden.
You are fighting with her.
Maybe she liked you, Aldric. She was trying to get your attention. You didn't give it to her.
Hey, come on. So my biggest mistake is to be at that point at where I was at that moment in time, or my biggest mistake was I'm born.
No. Your biggest mistake. Your biggest mistake is you're too good looking. It's a curse. It's your curse.
I can't believe they're making you wear a mask and cover that up over there. I really can't. It's so unlucky for a lot of female, okay?
Yeah.
Jeremy, what were you gonna say too? I wanted to hear what your thoughts were on that as well. You talked about Asian and the West, right? So I just want to say one point about Asians. We care a lot about face, and that shows on social media as well. So when you're bullied, you want your face back so you get into the fight, or So I think that's one different aspect in terms of Asia. So face is very important, and cyberbullying and all that is just gonna impact, and people are gonna react differently in Asia than in the States. Yeah.
And it's definitely, I think, when you're talking about commenting and social media etiquette, I think a lot of people forget social media is no longer a U.S. thing, right? As a global thing, right? So we have to start understanding and respecting other cultures, even when I'm managing brands. And same with Walter, I'm sure. The conversation looks a lot different when if McDonald's talks in the U.S. and the way McDonald's talks in Asia. Same thing with Starbucks, you know, just pay attention to the social media activity, right? What Americans find okay, just example, Aldric's example of putting his hand behind his back, even in the early 90s, if you did that in the US on certain streets, Timothy will tell you, you'll probably get shot. There will not be anyone running away.
Yeah, you would be. As soon as you put that hand back there, somebody's taking you out. That's it, man.
Or they call 911 and the police show up and take you out.
So there's always when you're looking at these platforms, you have to put things into context. It's no longer just about us and our community. And I think that's what makes this show work, right? We're looking at global perspective. You know, it's not just a U.S. thing. It's not just an Asia thing. It's a global thing. You know, and cyberbullying looks different depending on where you are. And the way you handle things, you have to go back to culture. Because sometimes, you know, someone commenting in India or in let's say Middle East or the US, they might not, you know, depending where you are, they might not be trying to offend you. It's their culture. It's the way they express themselves. So are you putting that into consideration, or are you putting your wallet, right? I know a lot of people get offended when people, example, when they, the first thing they do is pitch you, right, on these platforms. But that's how they're utilizing LinkedIn in their countries, is pitching. You know, a lot of them, that's their bread and butter. That's their job. It's no different than you waking up in the morning and going to work. They're getting paid to message you a message, you know? But then we get all wild up and go, oh my goodness, they didn't even get to know me. Well, those people aren't getting paid to get to know you. You know, they're getting paid to come message you, okay? And you know, and if they sell something, they get a bonus, okay? If Kevin Kwok was in their place, dude, you're gonna get message like crazy in your inbox, okay? Because I'm getting my bonus. I'm firing away, you know, multiple computers. So I mean, so you have to understand, like, have a little respect for people on social media, and it's like Tim and Walter, Aldric, Jeremey, everyone point out, it's all about like having a voice, respecting those who are out there, but at the same time, you have to have a little grace, right? You know, don't go around being the victim mentality. You know, it's social media. There's a block, there's a delete. There's unfollow. You don't have to turn on your phone, you know? So there's a lot of ways around it. But in real life, if there's a bully, dude, you're probably going to get punched if you can't run fast enough. So, you know? So next week's episode is episode 34. And we're going to talk about healing. Because we all need healing. So we could talk a little about that. And I want to just thank our audience. I think this is one of the most popular show because I think a lot of people get bullied out there. No, I don't know, right? Or a lot of people like to be a bully. So it's a great topic.
I like that healing follows bullying, because we all need to be healed.
Yeah, it's the best. Yeah.
Yep. So in the next week's 34, you're gonna see some tears because we're all gonna receive some healing after all these years of for myself being bullied, and then for Aldric bullying other people. Right?
and all the distractions
I've just
of
been
social
bullied
media.
online now, like now.
So Walter, how can our audience out here follow you, and how can they kind of, what is the ideal people that you work with?
Well, we work with companies of all sizes to help them with their social media marketing efforts. I also do some training for individuals who want to improve their effectiveness on social media. To find me, you can visit my website. That's coolerinsights.com, COOLERINSIGHTS.com. Or follow me on social media. You can Google my name. Usually you can find me when you Google my name, or just add me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, StreamYard.
Yeah.
They're the people that make this a reality for us to stream on multiple platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. We can even
Facebook,
Twitch if we want to. We haven't done that yet, but it's very seamless. It's very easy. You know, I can say it's kind of dummy proof. I run the show myself, so I'll have my J49 team at night to help me run it. So I mean, if I can make it work, you can. So just shout out to StreamYard. Is, you know, pretty economical way. I've been getting hit up a lot. People asking us how we stream our show, and it's StreamYard. So you can contact Aldric, Jeremey, Tim, Jennifer. We can always send you a link. So appreciate everyone for being on the show tonight, and it was nice to meet you, Lizzie. Thank you for hopping on YouTube, and be sure to follow us every Wednesday, same bat time. We'll see you next week. Later. Thank you, Walter.
see you guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
Walter.
Thanks, Walter. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.